Point number one I'll make is that AI is fundamentally changing knowledge management. It's changing how we think about information. It's going to change how you operate, but it's also, more importantly, going to change how the businesses that you serve operate. And some of that's showing up as simple chatbots, things that help automate services. Here's an HR example where an HR chatbot provides information about maybe how much leave you have, what the policies are, so an employee could go on and get the answers that they need without having to interrupt a human. One of the things that happens here is that it allows HR professionals, just like it would allow professionals in every piece of our business, to focus on much bigger projects, much bigger problems, and work on much bigger solutions. They don't have to spend 80% of their day anymore answering routine questions. They can focus on much bigger things. I think the other thing to recognize is that some of these technologies are intersecting with much broader trends playing out in society. At the same time that we're starting to automate some of these experiences, we're having a workforce develop where you've got younger workers that may not want to interact with other humans in the same way that prior generations did. The same kids who lost their senior prom have now entered the workforce, graduating from college, graduating from technical schools, and are now in the workforce, and they had a very different experience interacting with humans and interacting with technology. And if you doubt me, I challenge any of you right now to go call your children and see if they will pick up the phone. Because if they're like my kids, they won't. They have a phone in their pocket. In fact, most of the times they're holding it in their hand and they still don't answer the phone. I called my son the other day, actually, and he texted me back and he said, "Why are you calling me?" And I didn't realize I needed to get pre-authorization to call my own children. He texted me, he said, "Dad, only call me if it's an emergency." So I took that to note. Then the other day, he called me, and so of course I texted him back. I said, "Why are you calling me?" He said, "My tuition hasn't been paid." I said, "Only call me if it's an emergency." He didn't like that so much. We're seeing companies start to use AI to augment the services and the way that they interact. JetBlue integrated AI into their customer service experience. Now, they didn't replace their customer service experience, but they augmented the information that that customer service agent had access to. They estimate that they cut down the average call by 280 seconds. Now, that may not feel like a lot, but all of us who have been on those calls would gladly have those 280 seconds back. In JetBlue's case, that's about 75,000 hours a quarter that they saved. I recently talked to the biggest call center operator in the world, and they've told me that they are fundamentally hiring differently now because of AI. In the past, you hired somebody who could type very fast because they had databases, they were trying to retrieve information, so you needed somebody who could type fast and speak English. But AI is fundamentally changing that because AI is augmenting the information that becomes available. They're listening to that same conversation. They're surfacing that information that that agent is providing. And so the information's already there. You don't need to type fast. You don't need to search quickly. But you do have to have a different skill set. So now they're hiring for empathy. They're hiring for listening. They're hiring for a different skill set than they did in the past. And I think the same will come to all of our businesses and the businesses in which we serve. The skill set will start to evolve as we recognize that AI is changing how information flows. Georgia Pacific was running into a challenge where that they saw the critical information on how to operate their machines was dispersed. So Georgia Pacific has grown through acquisition. They have a lot of different factories running different equipment, and some of that know-how on how to use the equipment was with the operators, and they saw that their operators were starting to age out and they were losing some of that institutional knowledge. In other cases, it was on physical manuals that were tucked behind the machine. Some of it had PDFs that were available on systems. They aggregated all of that information. They did interviews with experts. They took digital paper that they had, manuals that were available. They took online information that they had. They aggregated it all into a single system that they call ChatGP for Georgia Pacific. And this allows any user anywhere in their system to understand how a specific piece of equipment works. They can troubleshoot it in real time. They can gain from the institutional knowledge that's being lost as some of these very senior, very experienced employees start to retire. So it's augmenting the information and retaining a lot of the know-how that exists within these organizations that we don't even think about.